Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thing where I talk to you about things. Today I've got actually a lot to talk about because I went to Paris, in fact, probably the most expensive trip I've ever been on. And as you can imagine, my bank account is now fundamentally empty. Everything is hand to mouth. It was actually, there's a good reason I went to Paris. I am engaged now to Kenza Fatin, the girl who did the voice for Joker Mort. So she and I are engaged. We're not sure when we're going to get married, but I'm going to go out to Denmark in December is kind of the plan. Potentially, we're discussing it right now. Namely, how will we get the money and what will we do? Our biggest source of logistical problems is income. That's the big thing, is no matter what we do, I'm going to try and get maybe some more work at my part-time job. And we've also started looking into some other things for the website to try and bring in more revenue. Right now, we're a little bit on the downturn, but we're almost done with Rainbow Dash Presents. That might get up in just like 1 or 2 weeks, I'm hoping. Petterup is better to say where we are on that right now, because currently it's in his phase of the production. He's going to hand it back to me, and then I'm going to do some touch-ups with a few extra sound effects here and there, and then of course the background music, and maybe a little bit of vocal editing if I feel like we need it. I think there's like one line that I wanted to go back and change, but in any case though, we're almost done with the next Rainbow Dash Presents, so that'll bring us up, that'll be good. But in any case though, yes, I have no money left. This trip was something that I've been planning. We've been planning for months. It's been money out of the bank for the past like 2 or 3 months or something like that. Kenza and I plan our trips way in advance. It's not very spontaneous. What can I say? But it was an interesting trip, and so I've been asked on Tumblr to discuss the concepts of leadership, and I really would like to talk about that, so I'm a little bit torn. Should I talk about my trip to Paris, or should I talk about leadership, or should I talk about what's going on with the website? And I might have to just set leadership aside for now. I'll pick it up later. I guess I'll talk about my trip and the website at the moment. The first thing I want to say is the website, donsomewhere.com, we're starting up a game store, effectively. What it is it's like it's a sort of like sales website where we sign up and then we can promote a game, and then we say, go to our store and buy these games, and we get like a commission cut from every game that you guys buy. I'll put a link to that in the description if you guys want to check out what we have in our store. But in any case though, I'm going to start buying games from that store, and I'm going to do like reviews and let's plays on them, maybe every Sunday is my current plan. And we'll get those posted up, and then we'll say, like, if you'd like to buy this game, you can go to our store, and so forth. And it's kind of based around the Let's Play community. It's got this idea that, like, people do buy games after watching Let's Plays. They are not harmful to the sales of the games. It is a silly idea to imagine that they are. So, actually, I think this is probably a really good thing. I don't know how popular it is yet, but they're getting more games all the time. They've got some big ones that are coming up. I think they have even Final Fantasy, the new Final Fantasy 14 game is coming to this game store at the moment. So that will be a thing that you guys can purchase from there later on. I don't know if I'll do a review on it. It depends. I've heard that Square Enix is a little bit touchy on some of their newer games. They don't allow Let's Plays. So I might not be able to promote that one, but that's on Square Enix. So what can I say? But anyway though, so that's what we're doing. We're hoping that'll bring in more money. Alan, unfortunately, just yesterday came to me with some unfortunate news, some rather unpleasant news. It turns out that he just got a new supervisor at his job, and actually he was doing really well where he works. He's part of the maintenance staff. And what happened is there were basically 2 sections of maintenance staff. There was store-hired maintenance staff, which was Alan, and then there was this independently hired maintenance staff, which was full of, as Alan describes to me, there were quite a few people who were a little bit strange. I mean, like young guys who didn't want to do the job, so they would just check out and leave, or who would go like play video games in the bathroom for like an hour or what have you. And apparently the store was having a lot of problems with this stuff, so they just let the third-party cleaning company go. They just fired him. And so Alan, for the past couple weeks, has been their only staff. He's been just cleaning the whole place. But Alan is a congenial guy. He gets along with people really well. He was a little awkward when he did his personal time video, but he's never done that sort of thing before. In person, I've seen him kind of banter with his fellow co-workers, and he's pretty good. Like I say, he's a nice guy. They seem to like him. And he was telling me that they were telling him they were thinking about just maybe giving Alan some people that they were gonna let him manage his own cleaning crew around the store, and so he was just gonna take charge of the whole maintenance thing. And so he was gonna get a little bit of a raise, and was pretty much in a good situation. Well, corporate sent down a new supervisor just recently, and so this supervisor showed up, and I guess without talking to anyone or doing anything, she's decided, like, oh, what's going on here with all this crap? And she hired back the old company that they were having problems with, and she approached Alan yesterday and told him, I feel like your job is kind of redundant. She told him to go home. So now we don't know if Alan's going to have a job, and we're a little bit concerned about that. So if he winds up unemployed, I mean, I've sent him a link. He's been with these people for like 2 years. So he's got a good case for unemployment checks if he needs it. I think we'll be okay. He's already looking into new job. He's already filling out new job applications if the worst happens. But we don't know what's going on. This is, like I say, new supervisor. He doesn't know anything about her. She doesn't know anything about him. She just appears to have decided that his job is not useful. So, yeah. But anyway, though, if that does happen to be the case, if Alan kind of winds up without anything to do, he and I have been talking about doing riff tracks and some other things. I might see if I can scrounge up enough money to buy him some games, and then I'll have him do some reviews, because he did a really good job with his Let's Plays. We might get more Let's Plays from Alan. We also might get more Let's Plays when I say might, I have got Let's Plays on hand from McNally, one of the guys on our Minecraft server. He wanted to do a Let's Play of a game that he says it ruined his childhood. And I'm looking at it, it's actually kind of a strange game. Your main character is basically Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, Disney's Beauty and the Beast. It's not intentionally, he just really looks that way. He's got the red shirt, and he's like the size of a barge, and all that stuff. And so we'll post that. I was thinking about making just a separate Let's Play channel, because we're starting to get people who are saying things. But it looks like just McNally and Alan are the only guys who are in it right now. So we might just keep posting it on the FimFlam Philosophy channel, because I don't really want to make a separate channel just to be like, oh, you two guys go over here, and I'll just keep doing. This is sort of like not worth it. If we start getting like more people, then we might make a separate channel, and then just be like, this is our gaming channel, because we've got a lot of people doing gaming stuff now. So, and like I said, we'll do it through the game store thing, and then that really might be a good move for us. I'm hopeful, but as with everything, it always takes a while to grow. Like I say, the fan base is growing for the Let's Plays. Things are starting to get watched more frequently by more people, but always slow starting out. So I don't know. I'm hopeful for it, but I've been over this before. So that's our situation with the website and kind of just with our general financial stuff and whatnot. On the edge as always, but hopeful for the future. Anyway, though, so the trip to Paris, like I said, I got engaged to a beautiful young lady. I'm very proud of Kansas. She's my partner in many things. And I've been talking to her for the past year and a half, actually. She and I met before the production of My Little Dashie. We'd been talking for a long time before that. And I've flown out to see her a couple times. I mostly flew out to see her when I was still working in a land survey job. And at that point, I had like full-time work with the overtime and everything else and full benefits and all that. So that was good at that time. Currently, I'm just, like I say, I used the last of my savings to go see her this one time, and now she and I are trying to figure out how the money's gonna work. But in any case, though, Paris, very interesting city, full of lots of beautiful things to see, full of thieves, lots and lots and lots of thieves and scammers and everything else. And I've been to London, Stockholm, and Berlin. I mean, not all with Kenza. Some of these were just trips with school. I went to London for the New Year's parade with my high school. We got invited to that. That was a lot of fun. But every time I go travel, you're always warned about thieves and pickpockets. They're like, look out for these kind of things. And so I do. I keep small amounts of money in several different pockets and never carry too much on me at once. I have ID in different places. I try not to take my passport with me because I don't want to lose it. Various things, and just to make sure that everything stays safe, and that if I do get money stolen from me, it won't be too much money all at once. Well, I've never really had problems with pickpockets or thieves before until I went to Paris. This was the first time that it was ever just like, oh my god, I'm not gonna go out with a pants with something that I can't button up to keep the money safe, because it was just ridiculous. Kenza almost got her purse snatched. We did have one of our group actually did have 100 euros snatched, although this was a person who I'm just going to call this person Morty. Morty is going to be the code name because I don't want to go around spreading names to anyone who isn't aware who is traveling with us. But Morty kind of ran into... Morty was a little bit difficult to travel with as a traveling partner. I mean, for one thing, she didn't like to drink water. She would only drink Coke, and she was a smoker. So we kind of had a problem, like, where we were out in the sun walking around all the time, and Morty was always, like, exhausted and dehydrated and kept stopping for smoke breaks. And so Morty was a little bit difficult to travel with. He wasn't too savvy with things, and it was kind of like, sometimes it was kind of like watching After Little Ones, you know. It was just like, you know, where's Morty? What's going on with Morty? Kenza and I would get off by alone, and we'd talk about, like, do you suppose that Morty is okay? Do you think Morty's on fire? Like, and that was actually a legitimate thing. It's like, the trip over to Paris was really good. It was actually probably the smoothest ride that I've ever had on a plane. There was virtually no turbulence for the full 9-hour flight, which is just unheard of. I've never had that before. And that was great. Unfortunately, I flew Delta, and they didn't have the service available for the films. And so I couldn't see all the films that they had available, but I could see Frankenweenie by Tim Burton. And I have to say, Frankenweenie was a complete disappointment. It was like one of those, like, well, I'm glad I didn't pay anything extra for this because it was a terrible movie. Frankenweenie, not so good. There were a couple others that I saw during the trip that were not so great. But anyway, though, so that I actually sat next to a lady, too, who was really talkative. She was a software engineer, and she talked to me about her job and so forth and so on, and her kids. She showed me pictures of her kids. Her kid went to karate and things like that. That was nice. She was a nice lady. And yeah, so it was a good trip. But once I got there, once I got to Paris, in Charles de Gaulle Airport. Charles de Gaulle Airport is like convoluted, crowded. There's no place to sit down. There's homeless people everywhere. It's just like it's kind of a dirty airport. It's a huge airport. And then I found out that Kenza was coming in at a gate where you couldn't, like, you had to get on a bus to go to the gate. And so I was walking around, and there are signs that said, go here for gate G, and which was the gate that she was at. And I was just wandering around in circles. It was like, go here for gate G, go here for gate G. And like I wandered fully in circles around like the airport, and then I was like, I can't find gate G anywhere. And then I found out that you had to get on a bus. I went to information. I was like, how do I get to gate G? And they're like, oh, you have to get on this bus, and it'll be like a half-hour drive out there. And I was like, oh, that sucks. Your airport sucks. And so, yeah. But eventually, though, Kenza, she showed up, and she actually drove out to where I was, because it took me so long to, like, figure out that I couldn't just walk to gate G, that her plane had arrived, and she was ready to come find me. And so we almost missed each other again. I finally found the route to gate G, and I was going to go try and meet Kenza. I was going to cut her off at the pass and surprise her, kind of. And but she was already down there, so we kind of intercepted each other. And it was great, but we got trapped there for about 4 hours for various reasons. And then wound up paying a taxi to take us down to our hotel. Because it was, we could have taken the subway system, but it was a very convoluted trip, and it would have taken a long time, and I was too exhausted to sit on a train and be cognizant of anything. It just wasn't going to work. Kenza was tired too. So we just hired a taxi, which was expensive, granted, but it got us where we needed to go. So yes, so our first day, though, we went down to a Chinese place to go ahead and get some food. We decided to get dinner at Chinese. And this was my first taste of how Paris kind of is, like I say, beautiful city, full of crime and other kinds of destruction. We were eating our Chinese, and it was a buffet, and so I went up to get some stuff, and they had some lovely, like, uncooked crawdads and whatnot. You could throw them on your plate, and they would fry them up in the wok, and that was neat. But then when I went back to my table, someone, I guess Jesus, had been driving through the streets of Paris because his motorcycle had erupted into a pillar of flame, and the driver was nowhere to be seen. And so we were just like, that was like right outside, like right on the street corner outside of our shop, and we're like, oh, do you think that's dangerous? Should we stay here and continue to eat, or should we panic because there's a pillar of flame outside? But the fire truck showed up, and they took care of it, and they put it out, and then the police investigated, I guess, for foul play, because, like I say, just motorcycle, pillar of flame. It was one of those. I turned around, I'm like, oh my gosh. And yes, so that was day one. Day two, we went to Disneyland. And I didn't really want to go to Disneyland because we have a Disneyland in the States, and it would be far cheaper for me to just go down to that Disneyland. And honestly, Disneyland in France it's almost kind of a waste. Like, there's so much to see and do in France. I mean, you could go down to the Louvre, or the Louvre, I don't know how it's actually pronounced. I am not good with French, which the French did not like, I will tell you. But yes, the Louvre is so huge that you can't really go down there and see it all in one day. So there's so much to see and do in France. There's so much art and so much like just lovely architecture. There's people who sell ice cream in the shape of flowers. You get an ice cream cone, they make it in the shape of a rose. It was very lovely. Anyway, there's so much to see and do. It seemed like Disneyland was just sort of a waste. Like, but the girls wanted to go see it because they're from Denmark. And they don't have Disneyland where they live, and so this was the closest that this is the shortest distance they could fly to get to a theme park like Disneyland. And so they were like, this is our opportunity to go to Disneyland. And so we did that. We went down to Disneyland. And I met Peter Pan, and I struck a pose with Peter and everything else. I tried to tell him no. He's like, come up here. And I was like, no. He goes, come up here. And I said, okay, fine. I'll come up there. And then he struck a pose, and I struck a pose with him. And then we got to get pictures with Peter Pan. He spoke really good English. Apparently, too, he's Tumblr famous because he's kind of a handsome guy, this Peter Pan is. But his English was just superb. His French was probably pretty good, but I don't know my French. I don't know if he was foreign or if he was from, but like I say, he just had great English. Anyway, though, so Peter Pan, he seemed like a nice guy. We got trapped on Space Mountain. We got on the Space Mountain roller coaster, and it broke down while we were on it. The ride just like came to a halt, and we were like, I don't think it's supposed to stop here. And we were like, nope, I don't think so either. So we had the emergency crews come out and rescue us from Space Mountain. That was fun. Then we got stranded because one of our group members had a bit of a problem. It was one of those things like at the end of Disneyland, they do a big finale thing where they do a show and they show off all the stuff. They're like, look at all this IP that we own. I mean, like, we're really not the same company we used to be, but look at all this stuff. And like, we used to be great. It's kind of one of those, it's sort of one of those things anymore. It's like, look at this, 50 years ago, we were a beautiful, lovely company. Look at all this history we used to profit from, or still profit from. We got another 100 years, we got 100 years of copyright in the US. So they show that off, they kind of flaunt that in everyone's faces, and then they set everything on fire, because it's kind of, and I'm not even kidding. This was truly like, you could feel the heat from the flames, like they had flame jets that just like, blah, and just, I was like, oh my God, I'm surprised that the castle, the little plastic castle they built doesn't melt under the heat of the fire. And so then they play a song, like a goodbye song. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, Kenza, they're playing the goodbye song. We have to leave. And she's like, are you sure? It seems like this song might go on for a while. And I said, precisely, we have to go before it ends. Because it was we were like in the front of a huge throng of people. And so I grabbed Kenza and one of the other girls, and then the last girl had to put away her camera. And I don't know why, but it took her like 5 minutes to put it away. And by that time, the song had ended, and everyone was going, and so we were in the back of the pack. And I was like, well, that's it, we've lost our initiative. And Kenza goes like, hell, we have! And so we all grabbed hands, and Kenza led us through the crowd. She weaved in and out and made room and whatnot, because Kenza's, she's just, she's kind of that kind of girl. And so she got us all the way kind of to the front of the group. I mean, not completely to the front. We still hadn't moved quick enough, but we'd gotten through a lot of the people that were behind us. We were somewhere probably in the first like quarter of the pack. And then Morty has to go to the bathroom. So we all stop, like all the progress that we made, we stop, and then we wait for Morty to go to the bathroom, and then Morty comes out, and then Morty is like, there's too many people, I'm having a stress breakdown. And so we had to stop, and we had to wait another half hour for Morty to get better. And by that time, everyone had pretty much exited the park. And I found out that everyone was pretty diligent about exiting the park, because in Paris, the railways stopped running at midnight. And we found that out the hard way, because we almost got home. And then when we went to push the button to exit on our stop, we missed our train by about 5 minutes. Because what happened is when we got to the stop that we wanted, we got off and we hit the button, and the door didn't open. So the train just kept going. We missed our stop. It left without us. So we got to the next stop, and so we got off the train there, and the next train came, we missed it by like 5 minutes, the train that was going to take us home. And so then we went upstairs and we found out that they close at midnight, and the only way to get home through the public transit systems, like at that point, was the night buses. And they only came once every hour. And so it was like midnight at that time. The next bus was going to come at 1 a.m. And one of the things they tell you is that when you're in Paris, no matter where you are in Paris, do not be out late at night. It's not dangerous. Paris is not safe. I can attest to that. Like, just as far as petty theft goes, there was a ridiculous number of people out there with ill intent. And so it was just one of those things, like we kind of negotiated for a while. And by negotiated, I mean like pretty quickly I decided that I says we should take a taxi. And one of our travel partners was like, well, I don't really have money for a taxi right now. I said, it's okay, I'll just cover it. I'll just pay for it, and we'll get back there. And I didn't ask anyone to pay me back or anything like that. And then, and of course, but they, one of the girls said, oh, no, I'll pay you back. Don't worry about it. And then the other girl says, wait, I want to negotiate. So she wanted to be the hero, and she was like, I'll pay for it. And so we got on the taxi, and then we got all the way back home. She goes, okay, everyone owes me €6. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was a little bit stupid. And then we went to bed, and the next day it rained, and we just kind of had a lazy day. It was a nice time. The third day, fourth day, where did we go? We went downtown or to the Louvre or something. We went somewhere. Anyway, though, when we went to the Louvre, we found out that the place is actually heavily populated with security guards. You see panhandlers and like homeless, beggars everywhere, all over. Like they're all over the place. It's ridiculous. But it turns out that about half the people there at the Louvre are undercover security. Because one thing that happened is we got approached by these young girls with like petitions. And it was one of those things, like, Kenza's just, she's kind of the type of person, she worries about people, and so they showed up with a petition. She's like, can you sign our petition? And she goes, oh, okay, yeah, I'll sign. She goes, it's it doesn't hurt to sign. And then they go, oh, I want money. And Kenza goes, oh, okay. And so she gave him €2. And they're like, no, I need a 5. And here's the reason why she needed a 5. It's because a €2 is a coin. And you just pull that out of your pocket, €5 is a bill. You pull that out of your wallet. So Kenza goes, no. And then they gave me the thing, they were like, at first, one girl approached me and she was like, here, sign. And I was like, no, what am I signing? And then another girl approached me and she just put the pen in my hand and she was like, take this pen, sign. And they were pretending to be deaf mute, so they weren't speaking directly to me. They were just like, she just gave it to me and then she gestured, emphatically, like, sign the thing. And so then I just kind of looked at it and I was like, well, Kenza's signing. So I signed, I put my name, and then I was like, province, and I was like, USA. And then, it was just one of those things, like, I was looking at it in confusion and trying to figure out, it was like, what exactly is this petition for? Like, you're implying that you need handicap services, but this is the Louvre. Like, wouldn't they have handicap services? This is a huge tourist location. I can't imagine that they wouldn't. And so it was one of those things, and then they're like, and then I need money. And I started to cross out, like, no money. Like, I was like, nope, not donating money. And then she just snatched the petition away from me, and she started to beg. And then, like, 2 other girls came up, and they started putting their hand, and then I realized, I was like, Kenza, they're beggars. And so I grabbed Kenza, and I grabbed one of the other girls. But Morty had pulled out her whole wallet, I don't know why, to, I guess, give them a €5 bill. And sure enough, that's what they were waiting for. They just snatched all the money out of her wallet, and they got, like, €100. And so that became a thing. Morty wound up going down to the police station. Half of the panhandlers at the Louvre turned out to be undercover security, and they grabbed a bunch of the girls. And it turns out, I guess, that they like, if you're underage, you can't really be arrested in Paris or something. I don't know, because they just took the money away from the girls and they gave it back to Morty, and then that was it. That was the end of it. So strange situation. But Kenza and I actually spent most of that time in the Louvre together. Morty and our other partner kind of went off to the police together. They didn't really want to go to the Louvre in the first place. They thought that they were going to have to spend money, but turns out they were doing a special event where if you were European, you didn't have to spend money to go in. I had to pay. No one else would have, but we didn't know that at the time, so that was how that happened. So fascinating stuff. After that, we just did some sightseeing, and then Kenza and I finally on Saturday, got some private time to ourselves, and it was like stressful, hard-earned private time, because one thing I gotta say is Morty was very intent for attention. It was, like I say, it was like having a little one. We would just be sitting, and like every 2 minutes, Kenza, hey Kenza, It was like a kid with like their mom, hey mom. She just needed like constant attention, I felt like. And it was one of those things too where like it was like I couldn't really like talk very much to Morty, because Morty kind of wanted to talk about Morty things all the time, and it was like I didn't really like know Morty. And so Morty was, like I say, just non-stop, like Kenza. And then she would tell Kenza about Morty. It was like more, I need this, I need that, I need juice, I can't drink water, I need a smoke break, I have to pee, oh my God, couldn't believe it. And so it was just there was a lot of that where we didn't, we got a lot of time. We went to Luxembourg Palace, which was beautiful. Kenza and I spent some private time together there, and talked about ducks and duck fighting, duck politics, and everything else like that. But Kenza's, we got the rose-shaped ice cream. It was beautiful. And that was lovely. But on Saturday, though, we finally had our time together. And so we went down to the shopping district and kind of looked around. Kenza tried on dresses and asked me my opinion of, like, what do you think of this dress? What do you think of that dress? And then we went down and looked at some other things. And we went down to the Eiffel Tower. And Kenza and I had been talking a little bit about proposal. Like, we'd kind of shop for rings online and whatnot. It was like, if, what is your ring size, Kenza? If, incidentally, I were to buy a ring, just saying, potentially, not like an engagement ring, we would want a surprise. But we'd been talking about it, and so she was kind of expecting me to propose at the time. And she thought that would be, we went down to the Eiffel Tower. We'd already been there once. And in fact, before that, we had just missed the bomb threat at the Eiffel Tower. That was another lovely thing, is apparently that's a regular problem in Paris, is they have a lot of bomb threats. So yes, we managed to squeak around the bomb threats, and so we got to see the Eiffel Tower at a time when they were not evacuating everyone, which was good. So yeah, so we went down there, and we just kind of had a romantic time together. It was very nice. We snuggled and talked about our plans for how we want to make things work out and what we want to do. When would we want to kind of get things established and whatnot. It all really comes down to money at this point. She and I don't really have any issues. We've gotten pretty much over every social hurdle and every little thing that we're worried about, except for the money is the only thing that we need. We both need money to get anywhere or do anything, because the whole international dating thing is very challenging, and one of us has to get somewhere else, preferably me, because she's still pursuing her education, and Kenza's very intelligent. She's got a lot of potential. She's a computer engineer, essentially. That's the closest that they've got different degree programs in Denmark, but basically she's a computer engineer is what she is, and so she's got a lot of potential. She's doing really well, and so most likely at some point I'm going to be traveling out to Denmark to be with her, is the plan, and so that way she can continue her education and whatnot. Although Denmark does not like foreigners, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge. But anyway, though, so I didn't propose to Kenza under the Eiffel Tower, because it's very common for people to do that, and I felt like I had a lot of internal conflict. I was like, should I propose here? Like I would put the ring in my pocket and then take it out, and then put it in another pocket, and then take it out, and it'd be like, no. Don't do it on the Eiffel Tower. Oh, but it's the Eiffel Tower. I should do it on the Eiffel. No, don't do it on the Eiffel. But eventually what I did is I actually have my proposal to her on camera now. Is we went back to the hotel, which, we got rooms that were kind of nice. You could cook. They had like stoves and whatnot. So we went back to the hotel, and I set up the camera, and I got the microphone and everything else, and I said, let's answer some Tumblr questions, because Kenza and I met on Tumblr. When she first introduced herself to me, she just sent me a message, and she goes, hi, she goes, can we talk? And she had a fake mustache on in the picture. She goes, I promise my mustache won't hurt you. And I said, oh, this girl's funny. And so I decided I'll talk to her, and this doesn't happen very often, because I do get a lot of requests, or just random contact requests on Skype, and a lot of them I kind of have to just not respond to, because I never know, some of them are kind of like young people, and so if I accept them as a contact, I'll get on, they'll be like, oh my gosh, Fem Flam Philosophy, can you put my OC in your shows? And I'm like, well, we don't want to, sometimes we look for OCs when we need background ponies. Like, no, not as a background character, I want you to make a whole show based on my OC. Like, okay. And then they get mad when it's like I can't do that sort of thing. It's like, no, we can't just create cartoons at it. Like, we have projects. We can only work on one project at a time. So, so I get into that, and so I can't accept every contact. But Kenza was just, like I said, she was just funny about it, and so I said, okay, yeah, we can talk. And then it turned out that she's a very intelligent girl. We had a lot in common, and we've been talking for the last year and a half. So we met on Tumblr. I got introduced to Kenza through a Tumblr question. It was just one of those things, kind of sheer dumb luck, that she would ask me a question that would just appeal to me in such a manner, and then continue to be appealing for the rest of that duration. And so I had sent myself a question on my own Tumblr, and I asked Kenza to scroll through and look for a question that she wanted to answer. And she almost wanted to answer. She got to, is Smeg a real person? And she almost answered that one. But then just below that one was Kenza, will you marry me? And she thought it was a joke at first, but then I got down on my knee and I gave her a speech. I talked about two historical characters that I've read about. It was the king of Pontus, Mithridates, during his war with Rome, had his kingdom captured by Sulla, I believe it was, or it was maybe Sulla's successor, because I think Sulla went back and took over Rome. It was one of the Roman legionnaires took over his country, and he got driven north into the Amazons. And he had relations there, but the Romans didn't really know the people in the Amazon. They weren't really diplomatic up there, and so they don't know the name of this woman that Mithridates wound up marrying there, but they called her Hippolyta, based after another Greek myth involving a character. She was an Amazon. She was an Amazoness. She was an Amazon queen, I believe, and this woman, of course, was an Amazon queen. She was a horse rider. She was a tactician. She could manage armies and everything else, and so it wound up being between she and Mithridates. They went back and they fought the Romans together in the jungles, and if I recall correctly, I believe that they drove the Romans out of Pontus and they reclaimed their kingdom together. So I kind of gave Kenza a speech as well as I could recall, under a little bit of nervousness and everything like that. And I asked her, would you be my Hippolyta? And she said yes. And I gave her an engagement ring. It has a little sapphire for the diamonds. And I asked for a sapphire because I said, you know, Kenza, she's an artist. She's of course an engineer, but she's also an artist. And I said she's just a very colorful individual. I'd like to get maybe a diamond with a little bit of color to kind of represent that. And it's got a diamond inlays and whatnot. It's very pretty. And I asked them for a pink diamond, and I said, do you think like pink might look good, because Kenza's got slightly darker skin. I thought maybe a pink one would be good. And they said, we could give you a pink one, but that would run you about $200,000. And I said, oh, okay. What do you have in blue? And so blue was pretty too. That came out really well. I was very happy about how clear and shiny that came out. And so I gave her a sapphire engagement ring. And so now we're working out the plans for that. And shortly thereafter, though, I had to go home. So here I am back in the States, and Kenza's over in Denmark. And of course, we've been talking about how we're going to get back together again and how we're going to make things work. And again, like I say, we are ambitious types. We don't give up on things, but we plan a lot. We talk a lot. We don't fight really. We negotiate sometimes, but we don't really fight. So what can I say? It's been an interesting week, interesting 2 weeks. Of course, getting back, I was going to try and get like more Let's Plays and what's not on, but through the jet lag, it was just hard to be creative. And it was like, follows, can't do. So yes. So anyway, though, so among other things, we're going to try and, like I said, we're going to try and expand into some other stuff. Maybe look for some sponsorships if we can, something so that we can start earning a little bit more money on the website. And eventually, over the long stretch of time, I'm hoping that the videos and everything else, the new Rainbow Dash Presents stuff, and also, like I said, some of you might be aware of this, but we're going to do a finale for the Rainbow Dash Presents stuff. I don't know that Peterup will retire from Done Somewhere afterward, because we plan to be working on this stuff for a while. It's not that Peterup wants to. In his words, it's great working with us. He enjoys it. I really enjoy working with Peterup. He's a major part of the creative team, by the way. I do a lot of the writing, but Peterup fills in a lot of the blanks, and so he'll like send me stuff. And but I didn't picture it that way, but that's a really good way to do it, and it looks really good. Like we've got scenes that just he'll do them in a slightly different way than what I would have in mind, and then it'll be like, oh, that's better. We'll keep that. And so, like I say, he's a really strong creative member of the team as well as everything else. Of course, by this point, I mean, you guys have seen him do he's got a Tumblr comic that he did for a while for BronyCon, and that was all him. He wrote that entirely on his lonesome. So if you like those characters, if you found them endearing, that was all Peterup. So like I say, he's been great. It's been great working with him, and we don't know plans as far off into the future, but we do know that we plan to make something like between a 6 to 8 part episode, more or less, of Rainbow Dash Presents. Where it won't really be Rainbow Dash Presents. It's going to be a parody of Equestria Girls, and we're doing that because there are a lot of things. Just Equestria Girls, the plot was say what you will about whether or not you really liked the movie, but it was rather cliche. We have to admit, the prom thing has been done so many times. It's obscene how common that plot is. Especially when you take the fact that, like, My Little Pony pits the characters against, like, gods and changelings and all these other things, all these other fantastical, amazing creatures. And then it's like, high school, greatest challenge yet. It's like, really? The god of, like, chaos and discord was, like, a lesser challenge than high school? Because, I mean, high school was an emotional time, but I also pegged the ponies for adults. Young adults, surely, but adults all the same. So, yes, we have a lot of amusing commentary based around Equestria Girls, just things that we wanted to do, just weird logical deals. The whole concept of Sunset, it just cracked me up that Sunset Shimmer, like, ruled the school by being the most, like, irritating, unlikable person that the school had ever known. Like, I talk to everyone however I want. Like, wouldn't everyone hate you? Like, wouldn't every girl in school be talking behind your back and every guy be, like, completely disinterested in you? Like, they would like look down on the other guy. Like, if a guy actually dated you seriously, they would probably talk smack on him. They'd be like, oh yeah, I bet she does things to your butt. So yes, we've got a lot of amusing commentary for a parody of that, and that's kind of our plan is we're going to do that, and that's sort of our planned finale for Rainbow Dash Presents. And but we think that that's going to be probably about a year in production, could be longer, just depends on what we're wind up doing. And after that, who knows what we'll do. It's just one of those things, like we cannot do ponies forever, because like I say, it looks like there are a lot of artists. You may have already noticed this is a little bit depressing, but there are a lot of artists who have already started to kind of get away from the pony fandom. It's just one of those things. It was like Alicorn Twilight and then Equestria Girls, and you started to realize, like, it's not going to be the next Harry Potter. It looked like it was going to be starting out, but then it wound up being too much. It's like Harry Potter was a brand new IP. It belonged to J.K. Rowling. She contracted it out, but that was kind of her dream, and she made it. She had enough control over her dream to make it a reality. The new My Little Pony thing was kind of Frost's vision, I suppose, and of course she had a great team working with her, but she's no longer part of the vision, and this is it. So that's it's kind of our feeling on it, is sort of like this is about how can I say, it's gonna go, which is probably not gonna last like some of the big, like some big fads have. There'll still be fans for it, surely, but what can we say? It's just eventually we'll be kicking a dead horse, if you don't mind the horse pun. So yeah, but anyway though, we're not like bolting for it. We're not saying like everyone get out of the fandom right now. We're just saying that we feel like, ponies have been a lot of fun, and they've gotten us a lot of places. They've gotten me a fiance and future wife, as the plans would go. I've built a small business around the parodies and stuff that we've done for it. Not a very profitable business yet, but we're branching out into other things to try and make it actually work, and everything else like that. So it's been an interesting ride, but like I say, at this point, it's becoming a little bit stranger of a ride than it started, or a little bit less. I don't know. You guys who've been following the show very, very, very religiously probably know what I mean. I don't like to rain on the parade at the people who are still enjoying My Little Pony and the whole concept. I know there are a lot of people who just enjoy the fandom and the stuff that gets produced in the fandom. So there are a lot of you who just kind of like to tune in and see, like, Rainbow Dash Presents and Mad Max does really great comics. I kind of just enjoy Mad Max's stuff. But I guess what I could say is I feel like the world building has maybe come to an end with My Little Pony. At this point, they're no longer building up the world or establishing the characters or really painting a fascinating picture. They're more, I think a lot of people probably feel like at this point they're just pitching toy sets. And the toy sets are not always they're not always like good toy sets. Sometimes they're kind of like, they're just sort of meh toy sets. Like, you might buy them for your kid, you might not. Just depends on whether or not your kid really cared and how much they cost at the time. Like, what does my disposable income look like? So, what can I say? That's kind of the way that it's gotten. But there's a lot of material to make fun of in Equestria Girls, and so we will definitely be making a lot of fun of Equestria Girls. We will kind of rake it over the coals, but in a comedic fashion. We're not gonna destroy it. We're gonna make it. It's gonna be light and funny, and everything else like we like to do. So that is what's going on. Like I say, lots of news. This has probably been very long, and I hope that I haven't run out of batteries on my mic. No, I'm still okay. It's been 40 minutes though. So I gotta wrap it up. I will catch you guys another time.